Hello, what is up? Today, I'm starting off my guide series. So, it's still pretty early in the format. This is only, I think, the second or third official day that the games have been released. But I wanted to go ahead and start talking about just kind of first looks at the Pokemon, because I know a lot of people are beating the games and are interested in pretty quickly kind of getting up and running and jumping into competitive. So, I wanted to kind of just go through one of the first Pokemon that everyone knows about. I wanted to talk about a Pokemon that was not really a spoiler because everyone is familiar with this Pokemon. And also I wanted to talk about it because I actually just happened to catch Gigantamax version of this with 5 perfect IVs, so I was a little excited myself to use this one. So the Pokemon we're talking about today is Corviknight. It is a very interesting Pokemon in that it shares typing with 2 kind of notorious other steel and flying Pokemon, one being Skarmory, which is very well known in singles, the other being Celesteela, which is very well known in VGC, especially the last few years, winning multiple international championships. So it's still pretty early in the format, as I mentioned, so this is just keep in mind, take this with a grain of salt, but these are my first impressions looking at this Pokemon. So Corviknight is a Stage 3 or Stage 2 Pokemon. It evolves from Rookidee and then Corvisquire. It has 3 interesting abilities. Pressure, normally not very good. Unnerve is an interesting ability that turns off the berries of your opponent. And Mirror Armor bounces back only the stat-lowering effects that the Pokemon receives. So that's a big deal because it reflects Intimidate. Basically, Corviknight's main selling point, we can jump to its stats next. Its stats are overall not phenomenal. It has pretty good base HP, not good attack, decent defense, bad special attack, okay special defense, and it's relatively slow. So Corviknight's main selling point is in the fact that it gets a signature Gigantamax form, and in the fact that it has this ability Mirror Armor, which is unique, as you can see here. So yeah, with all that in mind, Corviknight's interesting. I think that it's probably not going to be an amazing Pokemon, but it's still too soon to tell. So let's talk about the positives of Corviknight's move pool. It gets Brave Bird, which is the best physical flying type attack you can have on a flying Pokemon, unless you prefer like Drill Peck or something. But for the most part, Brave Bird is the way you want to go with Pokemon like this. It also gets Iron Head as well, which is one of the best steel type attacks you can have. Sorry, I can zoom in a little bit. I know people always want to see more. So in addition to this, it gets relatively good support move in Tailwind, one of the best support moves in the game. So that's pretty good, and its signature attack G Max Windrage functions as a defog as well. So in singles, that has extra use, and it also is good in VGC because sometimes people will run Light Screen and Reflect. So basically, that has some interesting things. There are some interesting things about it. Stats are overall bad. The ability is kind of good. When I first take a look at a Pokemon like this, I go through its move pool and I say, okay, what moves jump out at me? I already mentioned Brave Bird, Tailwind, and Iron Head. But apart from that, it does get screens, as you can see here, with Light Screen and Reflect. Light Screen and Reflect. It also gets U-Turn, which is better in singles than... Actually, which is good in both singles and doubles if you have the room for it. Fake Tears is an interesting supporting move. It has actually good special moves. It gets access to Hurricane. It gets access to the new Steel type attack, Steel Beam, which is cool. 140 base power, but its special attack stat is pretty bad. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, Hurricane. It gets Heavy Slam. I'm not familiar enough with the format whether or not I can recommend that. And then it gets Nasty Plot as well as Bulk Up. So, and it gets Taunt, which is another good one. So, other than that, though, its coverage moves are really lacking. It gets Body Slam. It gets U-Turn, like I mentioned. It gets Body Press, and that's kind of basically it. Power Trip is not really used most of the time. Though it could be used in some cases. But yeah, Body Press is kind of the last one worth mentioning. Yeah, so with all that in mind, where does that leave Corviknight? If we go ahead and take a look at... Sorry. Let me move my face over here, just so you guys can see better. So if we take a look at Corviknight, I've got some sample sets for you guys here. This Corviknight is... The first thing that jumps out at me is we're taking advantage of Mirror Armor here, right? Using Mirror Armor to bounce back the stat lowering effects that the Pokemon receives, basically reflecting Intimidate, meaning that it's extremely difficult to intimidate Corviknight, which is good because with a Choice Band, you basically compensate for Corviknight's mediocre attacking stats with this better Clear Body, effectively saying, okay, like I don't have the best offense naturally, but versus Arcanine, for example, this set will do like 78 to 90% to an Arcanine with max HP with Brave Bird, and because you're reflecting back Intimidate, you take less damage from Flare Blitz as well. So it takes advantage of Corviknight's good natural bulk, and using an Adamant Nature and most of the EVs in attack to basically do good damage. This set is also good. It does good damage to Tyranitar with Iron Head. It also OHKOs Tyranitar with Body Press. I don't know why I mentioned that, but it can hit Fairy types, which is good. Yeah, like I mentioned, Corviknight's main weakness are its stats, in addition to its move pool, but really the stats are what's holding it back. So basically, I have max HP here because you're using Brave Bird a lot of the times because it's a very easy move to click, but you could also redistribute these into speed, or you could, in theory, take them out of attack as well, but I wouldn't recommend it. I also, full disclosure, I haven't exactly figured out how Body Press works yet in terms of doing damage, so it's possible maybe that makes more sense to invest in defense as well, but yeah, U-Turn is there because against slower Pokemon, against Trick Room Pokemon, and just in general, it will do good damage thanks to the Choice Band and the inability to be intimidated. This Corviknight set functions kind of similarly to how Metagross functions, where you give it a Choice Band and then it's just very, very difficult to deal with because you can't intimidate it at all, and so it's hard. And both those Pokemon have really good natural bulk, so this just trades Psychic typing for Flying typing and a little bit of different coverage. The next set I want to talk about, this is kind of your typical Tailwind support set. The EVs, this set will 2-hit KO Tyranitar with Iron Head, which was, I figured, a reasonable benchmark. I don't want to run too many calcs because I don't want to spoil. I want people to be able to watch these videos knowing only about Corviknight and not about other Pokemon in the format. And also, I'm just not as familiar with them at the current moment. So, yeah. So this set is kind of what you would. This is probably, I probably should have led off with this set. Truthfully, this is the set that I would expect to be the most kind of common to start with if people are running Corviknight. Again, you're running Mirror Armor. You're running Mirror Armor, which is interesting for the reasons I've already mentioned, and this set is more traditional support. You put EVs into the special defense stat to kind of even out the bulk of Corviknight. Corviknight does have pretty good HP, like I mentioned. Its bulk is actually kind of comparable to Celesteela. Yeah, so yeah, this set, it's mainly here to set Tailwind, be overall pretty bulky, support the team by deterring Intimidates, and then do chip damage with decent coverage with Brave Bird and Iron Head. The other reason that, I didn't really mention this, but the other reason you run Body Press here is because both Flying and Steel type are really walled by the opposing Steel type, so having a fighting coverage move is interesting. But yeah, Tailwind is here, like I mentioned, to support the team. Corviknight will reach a speed stat of 175 after Tailwind. You could easily run more speed to hit, like, up to, you know, a faster number if you wanted to hit that in Tailwind. But yeah, this set primarily here, overall team support with a bit of offensive investment as well. I think there's actually a chance, well, never mind. These EVs might not be perfectly efficient, but yeah. All of this is intended pretty much just as a recommendation, I would say. Like, none of this is going to be perfect. It's still so early in the format. I'm not as familiar with the metagame. There isn't really a metagame, considering the official VGC rules aren't even out yet, but this is just kind of, if you want to play with your friends, this is like a good starting point. Yeah, so the last set I have here is a setup set. Protect, Bulk Up, Roost, and Brave Bird. This set also functions pretty well in singles, I think. You could drop Protect for a different coverage move if you wanted. Idea here is that you invest heavily in special defense, and you use Bulk Up to boost your attack and your physical defense. Basically, after a Bulk Up or two, you're going to be extremely bulky. And with Roost and good team option support, you can become very threatening. And this is cool because normally with a Bulk Up set in VGC, this wouldn't really work that well because of Intimidate, right? And the opponent, like, Bulk Up only raises your attack stat one stage at a time. So Intimidate can really slow that down. But with the ability to weaken opposing Intimidate Pokemon and the ability to boost your own defense, you could very rapidly become a real threat. And after a Bulk Up or two, Brave Bird will be doing really serious damage. You don't usually get to +6 to really threaten things with this set. This set also pairs well with a Psych Up partner. If you're interested in doing something like that, if you have room for Psych Up on your team, that's a good option. So other things I want to... Oh, sorry, this should be Mirror Armor. Other things I want to talk about is Gigantamax. Gigantamax is... I'm not entirely sure if you can get Mirror Armor with Gigantamax Corviknight. It's kind of unclear to me now. Like I said, I think that for the most part, Corviknight is probably not the best use of a Gigantamax Pokemon, except in specific situations, or Dynamax Pokemon in general. Apart from its specific situations, but the added bulk can be really nice, especially on the Choice Band set specifically, actually. Like, having the extra bulk on a set that's primary function is to do damage is pretty interesting. Yeah, and I mean, yeah, again, if you can, like, I don't think the inability to get mirror armor is that huge of a deal. Like, you can still Dynamax your Corviknight, you just will lose access to the powerful. Let me actually just see what the difference in power is. 140 versus like, oh, okay, so there's not even a difference in power. So I actually don't think Gigantamaxing is that big of a deal here. So even if you can't Gigantamax your Corviknight and have mirror armor, I don't think that's a huge problem for the way this Pokemon is used. Overall, obviously, it's still pretty early on, and I can't say for certain how good this Pokemon will or won't be, but I would say, at an initial look in VGC, I'd probably give it like a 4 or a 5 out of 10. Like, I'm sure it will have some usage, but I wouldn't expect it to be... I think you would have to do more work to support this Pokemon than this Pokemon would do supporting you. And of course, the typing is nice, the ability to hit Fairy Pokemon and resistance to Fairy Pokemon is nice. Basically, Steel typing is really nice, and it only has 2 weaknesses, right? Fire and Electric? Because ground and fighting are removed, and then ice and rock are removed. Yeah, so overall, like, pretty good typing. Bad stats, good ability, not great move pool. But it does have access to Tailwind, which is good. So overall, yeah, give this Pokemon 4 or 5 bagels out of 10. And we'll have to wait and see, really, to see basically how good it is. But that's my initial look at it. Let me know what you guys think. These guides will become a lot more complex as we get into the games more fully, as the rules are released. I'm going to try and do a guide. The goal is for every Pokemon, every fully evolved Pokemon. Whether or not I accomplish that is another question, but yeah. If you like this video, if you like this concept, if you want to see more guides like this, please show this video some love. Give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow for another video. Goodbye.